Hello, I'm Joseph Giunta, the music director and conductor of the Des Moines Symphony. Thank you for joining me in the listening room as part of our DMSO at Home series. Today, I'll talk about one of the great symphonists of all time, second only to Beethoven, Gustav Mahler. In Kalisz, Bohemia in 1860, Mahler was born into a German-speaking Jewish family. His father owned a tavern, and the Mahler family lived above it. Just imagine the musical influences of this young boy. Vagabonds playing music in the tavern, a town square less than a block away where military bands trumpeted their marches, and a synagogue where Mahler sang in the choir. He also discovered at this early age that nature brought him peace and tranquility as he passed countless hours walking the surrounding fields and forests. He later wrote that nature made him feel whole, relaxed, and overtaken by a calmness he never felt when he was in town. He often sat silently, listening to the birds sing, the wind blowing, the sound of the water in a nearby stream, and to all the music of Mother Nature. Each of these influences are evident in his music. Though Mahler was a poor student, when he was 15 years old, he auditioned and was admitted into the prestigious Vienna Conservatory. Vienna was truly the musical capital of the world, and he was so inspired by his new surroundings. While he took in counterpoint, harmony, and honed his piano skills, he also encountered and learned to negotiate in the anti-Semitic environment fostered by some of his teachers. Luckily, the feelings of being denigrated and embarrassed fueled a creative spirit in him. It was then that he realized that he could express his feelings through music. Indeed he did, and in ways that he never dreamed of. There's a story about Mahler meeting the great Finnish composer Jan Sibelius in Helsinki in 1907. Mahler was on a concert tour there, and a meeting was arranged by a mutual friend. The two geniuses spoke about the symphony. Sibelius said, "I admire the symphony's profound logic, creating an interconnection among all the motives." Mahler replied, "The symphony is like the world. It must embrace everything." Sibelius, of course, treated the symphony not as a rhapsody or a free fantasia, but as a piece of music with rules and a set order. Mahler, on the other hand, was far more rhapsodic, bending the rules to reflect his experience of life and humanity. Two very different approaches to composition, but both equally great from my point of view. During his lifetime, Mahler was known primarily as a conductor, one who enjoyed a position of great personal power, and as a man full of passion and electricity. He had a love-hate relationship with conducting. When he was 21 years old, he took his first job as a conductor and found out how much he loved sculpting the music to his own liking. But he despised the friction and laziness amongst the musicians and the constant compromises he had to make with them. It was a resentment that he carried with him his entire life. Mahler wrote 9 symphonies and began a 10th that went unfinished. They are magnificent works, all long, massive, and controversial. And many of these monumental works might have been forgotten if it wasn't for conductors Leonard Bernstein and Bruno Walter, two early champions of Mahler's works. When I first heard a Mahler symphony in 1958, there were only 2 recordings of the second, 1 of the third, and 2 of the 9th. Currently, there are well over 100 recordings of all his symphonies. How fortunate we are to have all of them. A reporter once asked Mahler why his symphonies were not performed much, and he replied, "My time will come." Prophetic words indeed. Today, his music is an important part of every serious conductor's repertoire. His music is the benchmark of orchestral performance. If an orchestra can play Mahler well, they can play anything. His music fills concert halls all over the world, and continues to gain popularity and appeal. Mahler's music is a study of the dichotomies of the human spirit, confident and insecure, grandiose and tranquil, subtle and blatant, boring and exciting, shy and extroverted, refined and raw, bellicose and peaceful. His grotesque marches, apocalyptic and unbridled climaxes, his parodies on folk songs heard in his youth, the Viennese waltzes, the church chorales reminiscent of Bach, and his choruses and vocal solos all gave the 19th century something that had been brewing since Beethoven's days. Huge, powerful, and highly individualized symphonies that expressed every imaginable emotion and that made indelible and memorable impressions on anyone who would dare perform or listen to them. Again, in his words, the symphony must be a whole world, and he achieved just that. Many of his symphonies are programmatic works. They tell a story. There was always a strong sense of dramatic purpose in his music. Whenever he couldn't communicate his meaning through instruments alone, he added voices and text. I view his symphonic output as one huge overarching achievement in 3 chapters. His first 4 symphonies are naive, innocent, and youthful. 5 through 8, more realistic and personal, with 5 and 6 being on the tragic side. And the last are farewells to life and his art. Mahler once said that he was homeless 3 times in his life: as a Bohemian amongst Austrians, as an Austrian amongst Germans, and as a Jew everywhere else in the world. This sums up not only how he felt about his life, but also tells us a lot about his music. After all, composers are human, and their music reflects their own human experience and everything that life brings: hope, joy, passion, dreams, disappointment, and tragedy. Mahler experienced it all. This is the heart of his music's worldwide appeal. Hearing a piece by Mahler is always an event and can even prove life-changing. This is his legacy. Thank you for joining me in today's listening room, and don't forget to go to our website, dmsymphony.org, where you can find listening links to the composer I have just discussed today right after this video. You'll also find more content in our #DMSO at Home series, featuring self-produced videos by our musicians from their homes to yours. Next time, I'll talk about the first and second symphonies of Mahler. Until then, stay well.